Teacher, I can go out Zoom first 20 minutes, please.
Yes, if you need to, you can. Okay, so the topic for today's session 3 is going to be the roles of a debate. So last week we began that conversation by talking about the moderators and the judges and what they do. So today's going to be more focused on each of the 6 speakers. So welcome to session 3 of our debate workshop series. Today we will explore the various roles that participants take on in a debate and how each contributes to the overall discussion. Because remember, obviously a debate is just a formal conversation. So in a debate, there are 6 primary roles. We have the first proposition and first opposition speakers. We have the second proposition and second opposition speakers. And we have the third proposition and third opposition speakers. So let's delve into what each of these roles entails. Tom, it's good to see that you're a debate smart cookie. So let's get down to business. The key roles of a debate. So each speaker in a debate has a specific role to play in order for their team to earn the victory. Understanding your part is essential for effective participation in a debate. We begin with the first proposition speaker. And the first proposition speaker opens the debate. They have many important tasks to ensure their team starts off strong. And those tasks include introducing the motion. So at some point early on in their speech, they'll make a statement like, it is our stance or our team believes that, and then they'll say whether they believe or don't believe the topic that's up for debate. A very important job they have is they need to define key terms. So yeah, and an important thing for the proposition team to do is not just to tell us what their stance is, but they need to define it for the judges and for the audience. Because with a debate topic, there are lots of possible lines of logic that either team can take. So we want to make sure that we're very, very specific about what we're arguing for. And finally, the first proposition speaker sets the stage for the proposition team's case by delivering their main arguments and supporting evidence. So they play a crucial role in establishing the foundation of the debate. Are there any questions so far about the first speaker? This is the most entertaining chat box I've seen in a while, guys. Okay. Lincoln, yes, what's your question?
Yes, my question is I didn't understand much the price setting the stage for propose.
So you would like me to you'd like me to re-explain the third dot point?
It's like I didn't understand the word delivering their main arguments and supporting evidence. I didn't understand the phrase.
Okay, so I'll go through that dot point bit by bit. So setting the stage is just a fancy way of saying we're beginning. So because the first proposition speaker is the first speaker, they're setting the stage, or they're getting ready, or they're getting their team ready to make their case. And so when they deliver their main arguments, the arguments are just, I suppose you could say, an argument in a debate is like a reason why you believe or you don't believe the motion. And the evidence is just the information that we find that supports our arguments, or it allows us to be able to say, for example, well, yes, I think every child should learn how to swim because there's this report from the government that says that young children that don't know how to swim have a significantly higher chance of drowning in the pool. So yeah, it's just your reason why and the information that you've got to support that reason why. Make sense? Terrific. Very good. Thank you for your question, Lincoln. So we move on now to Ken. Do you have a question?
What's the purpose of debate if we can't sometimes debate for what we favor? For example, last week you said that we may be put in a position, like for example, opposition, and argue about something that we support.
Okay, very good question, Ken. So you've got me thinking now. So the purpose for debate is, well, the main purpose is for the government. So when you have, say, the prime minister of the country wants to put forth a certain law, and the opposition to the government is just another government position. They may not agree with that law. So if they don't agree with that law, then it goes to a parliamentary debate in, not the Supreme Court, Parliament House, one of the government houses. And so you've got the government side versus the opposition side, and they're arguing for or against this particular law. So that's the main purpose of debate, is to make sure that society is run democratically. But for debates like this, or for situations like this, we participate in debate to learn how to formulate arguments, to learn how to speak in public confidently, to learn how to conduct research properly. There's lots and lots of reasons, or lots of very valuable skills that you can get from participating in debate if you're not part of the government. Does that answer your question, Ken? Mark.
I have a question. What happened if we accidentally, like we are on affirmative and we accidentally support the negative in our speech? Then will they minus our point?
Good question. So first of all, there's a very, very low chance that would happen. The reason being that hopefully you would be putting in enough time of research and practice with your teammates so that the other teammates would be able to go, oh, I think that's supporting the other team a bit much. But failing that, and you do get an argument through, so you will never be penalized for making a mistake. You only get scored for the good things you do. So if you, let's say your rebuttals are really good, And other than this one argument, you've stuck to your strategy, your team role. Let's say the judge would score you for that out of 10. Let's say the judge would score you 7 out of 10. So because you made this one argument that accidentally supported the other team, the judges aren't going to go, oh, well, he did this, so let's take that 7 and make it a 4. They're just not going to award you any more points than the 7 you've already got. So you'll never be penalized for a mistake. You only get scored for the things you do right. Alice.
May I go out, please?
Yes, if you need to, you may.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Just before you go, just make sure you get a copy of the PDF slides so you can read up on all of this and study later. Okay, so we move on to the first opposition speaker. And the first opposition speaker lays the foundations for the opposition team's case. Their duties include countering the arguments presented by the first proposition speaker. So that's also known as rebuttals, or so I should say rebuttal is the proper title for that duty. So any arguments made by the first proposition speaker, it's up to the first opposition speaker to be able to have a counterpoint to that argument. Their next duty is they need to redefine key terms to establish the opposition team's position. So as I said before with the first proposition speaker, it's very important for you to define your point of view. So once the proposition team has done that, they have set a definition for the motion. So the first opposition speaker gets an opportunity to redefine certain terms. So then that's how they create their own line of logic, or their own team line, as it's called. So yeah, by redefining that motion, you're able to create a completely different case with your own arguments. And that may sound that may sound tricky and confusing, but I promise you, once you've had a go at it, practiced it a few times, it actually gets quite easy. It just sounds intimidating with all the fancy words. And the final job of the first opposition speaker is they need to launch a counter case to further prove the opposition team's position. So that simply means the first opposition speaker needs to present their team's main arguments and the supporting evidence to bolster those arguments. So the first opposition speaker's overall role is to begin the clash of ideas. So what that means is we've heard from the first proposition speaker, they've set their team's line of attack up. And now the first opposition speaker presents a different line of attack, and those two different cases are what create the clashes in the debate, the clashes of ideas. So do we have any questions about the first opposition speaker before we move on? Terrific. We move now to the second proposition speaker. Phuc Thinh Nguyen, do you have a question?
Before I ask my question, I'm gonna just change my name. Wait a minute, okay?
Okay.
I always forgot to change my name. Okay, so wait, so the first opposition speaker can actually do a rebuttal?
Yes.
Ooh, that's weird. That's weird.
Well, so the only reason that the first proposition speaker doesn't do a rebuttal is because there's nobody that speaks before them.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it means that the first opposition speaker, the second, and the third can always do rebuttals, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So 5 out of
Then-
6 of the speakers in the debate have a chance for rebuttal.
Okay, then I'll just pass it to the next person.
No, 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 no. You do not do that. No, 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 no. So it's up to the following speaker to it's up to the following speaker to rebut the arguments of the previous speaker. So the second opposition speaker cannot rebut the arguments of the first proposition. Only the first opposition speaker can do that. Okay. Yes, Ruby.
And I just got in and then I go to toilet and then I just got in. So I don't know what you're saying about.
Okay, so today we're talking about we're talking about the responsibilities of each of the 6 speakers in a debate. So just follow along from where we're up to now, and we'll have your student helper help you out and fill you in on what you missed when you go to the breakout rooms.
Yes.
Okay, T Mai.
Yes, so I do have a question. Is that can the second speakers provide more information? They
Yes.
provide more reasons, and instead of connecting to the first speakers, they can provide more reasons with the sub arguments, can't they?
They can. So I'm actually about to speak about that now once I get through these questions. So I'll answer your question properly with my explanation of this slide.
Oh, I get it. Yes, thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Summer.
So I would like to ask, I need the slideshow, but I don't know where it is. I tried looking in the Zalo group chat, but I can't find the slideshow.
Okay, I have sent it to Ms. Duke. She must have been busy, but you will be able to get a copy of those slides because I have sent them to her. Maybe if you try sending her a direct message, she could send it. Kevin.
Yes,
Do you have a question?
yes. So what if you say something but you give a positive answer for the other's team? What should you do?
Okay. So, so if you notice that an argument you've come up with is going to help support your opposing team, don't deliver that argument in the debate. But yeah, so in your preparation for the debate, you should hopefully be spending enough time with your teammates and doing enough research that someone on the team would be able to pick up that the argument you've created is helping the other team. So yeah, that's my advice for that. If you're ever worried about that, just run your arguments past your teammates and one of you is bound to pick up the fact that that argument's supporting the other team. Okay, last question for now, and then we shall move on. Team Shadow Killer with the 1.8 subscribers. Where'd you go? You disappeared on me. Okay, let's move on. I'll ask a few more questions. I'll answer a few more questions a bit later. So the second proposition speaker, their job is to build on the case presented by the first proposition speaker. So their duties include, first of all, rebutting the arguments made by the first opposition speaker. And their second job is to provide additional arguments, evidence, and examples to support their team position. So to answer the question asked before, all of the arguments put forth should be able to support the team line that you and your team created before the debate began. Hang on, I'm gonna go turn the lights on. Feel like I'm at a slumber party. Okay. So part of a debating team strategy is to develop what we call a team line. And what that means is that all of the arguments that your team is going to present, excuse me, you've got the hiccups. But yeah, all of the arguments that your team is going to present should all run down one line of logic. So you don't want your arguments to be bouncing all over the place, because then you don't have a good team argument. You've just got lots of little arguments that bounce all over the place, and it's quite a weak strategy. But if you get together with your team and you organize your main argument, or like what I suppose your team's stance on the motion, then you make sure that all of your arguments are along the same line as much as possible. So they're all on not necessarily the same topic exactly, but you want to try and stick to like that one lines of logic so that all of your arguments can work together. Because if you can make your arguments work together, then that's how you're going to create a strong case, and you've got a much greater chance of the judges ruling in your favor. So yeah, the second proposition speaker, they provide additional arguments, evidence, and examples to support their team position. So the main priorities of the second proposition speaker are the continuation of inter-team clashes. So continuing to rebut against the arguments made by the opposing team. And yeah, just keep those clashes happening. And the continuation of the team line. So making sure that all of your arguments follow the same line of logic. And you're going to hear me say that a lot because it is very important for your team to form a coherent case. So making sure again that all of your arguments follow that same line of logic, and it's not just, oh, well, here's an argument that goes this way and then one over that way and one over that way and one over that way. You want all of your arguments to be kind of going in the same direction, and that's how you make your case as strong as possible. I've got a few questions here. Ken.
Okay, teacher, I'd like to ask that is the opposition team lucky and the proposition benefited? Because I think that some topics are so obvious that they don't have any evidence to show.
So that's actually that's a very good question. So a debate topic can only be a topic if there are two sides to the argument. So for example, I'm trying to think of something really, really obvious. So this is just a really poor example of it, but you could not have a debate on the question, am I holding up one finger to the camera? Because there's no two sides to it. Yes, I'm holding up one finger to the camera. But if you have a question like, oh, okay, there's that many questions, I can't even think of one. It's like, is Picasso the best artist that ever lived? You could have a debate on a topic like that, because there are lots of different perspectives, lots of evidence you could use to have two different sides of the argument. Does that make sense?
Yes, teacher. And I like to ask also that what's the topic of this debate tournament, so I can prepare.
So for the official tournament, we're not releasing the topics until 1 week before the first round begins. That's just to make sure that everybody has the same amount of time, 1 week, to prepare. But you will have a full week to prepare your case. Ben, what's your question?
What if like I'm speaking and I forgot everything in my speech?
We had a few kids asking that question this morning, so I actually have an answer pre-prepared for you. So for a debate like this, where you are preparing your answers, where you've got a week to prepare your motion, hopefully you will have the sense to write your speech down. Now, the two possible ways for you to do that is you can either write the whole speech out word by word. So you've just got the whole speech as you're going to say it written down on the paper. Or the other way to do it is just to have a list of dot point facts. You can then expand. Once you read it on the paper, you then expand it and deliver the argument in the debate. So the best way to not have that happen is to prepare some notes in advance. But God forbid you don't take notes and you forget everything you want to say. The best thing I can say is just take a deep breath and try to remember what you were talking about. There's not really much else you can do. On two.
Yes. If you are speaking and you make some few mistakes, can you take back that? Or after you speak and it's the 30 seconds is like out, and can you take back your speech and do it again?
There are no do-overs. So you get your 4 minutes to present your speech, and that's that. The best way to avoid making those types of mistakes, do you mean factual mistakes, or do you just mean like slipping over your words and saying the wrong words?
Yes, factual mistake.
So for a factual mistake, the best, if you realize you've made a factual mistake, the best thing you can do is apologize and correct yourself. So as long as you're still within that 4 minutes you've got to speak, you can make corrections to your speech. And again, you won't be marked down if you do make that correction. Yeah. So yeah, if you do make a factual mistake, admit it, apologize, correct it, and keep going with your speech. Selma.
Okay, so like if like a speaker don't know anything about this topic, like what could we do with that case?
If a speaker doesn't know anything about the topic,
yeah,
that if they don't know anything about the topic, that just strikes me as very, very bad preparation. So that is just something I would avoid altogether. Do your research, develop your case, and get your facts together ready for the debate. Because there's not really anything you can do if you don't know anything about the topic, because you can't present incorrect arguments. You can't present arguments that are not backed up by evidence. So yeah, really just do your research and get your facts ready to debate before the debate starts. And you can avoid that situation. Okay, last question for now, then we'll move on. T-Mai.
Okay, so I do have a common, so I did see this as a common issue. So a speaker went to the wrong side. So, for example, in this affirmative side, the second speaker made a speech for the negative side. So, how do we fix on that? And how can we solve on that?
If the person that makes the argument for the wrong team, are they on your team or are they on your
When
opponent's?
they are on our team.
If they are on your team, I would. The only way I can really think to fix that is to spend more time preparing with your team before the debate. Talk to each other about the arguments you plan to deliver. Yeah, talk to each other about the arguments you plan to deliver and try and catch any mistakes like that before the debate. But if you don't, and something like that is mentioned in the debate, there's not a lot you can really do unless the teammate that's speaking catches onto it and corrects it themselves, because you're not allowed to like tap them on the shoulder and go, hey, you just gave them an argument for their side. You're not allowed to do that. So you just better hope that that teammate that's speaking catches that mistake.
Oh, I get it. Yes. Thank you.
Very welcome. Okay, so we move on to the second opposition speaker now, and they have a very similar role to the second proposition speaker. So it's the second opposition speaker's job to continue the counter case to weaken the proposition team's case. Their duties include challenging the arguments made by the second proposition speaker. So again, that's just rebuttals to their arguments. And we've got presenting their team's counter arguments and strengthening the opposition's side of the debate. So again, that's just offering additional arguments and additional evidence to strengthen the line of logic that the opposition team has taken for the debate. So the main priorities of the second opposition speaker, are the continuation of inter-team clashes and the team line. So same responsibilities as the second proposition speaker. Try and weaken your opponent's case and try and strengthen your own team's case. We move on now to the third proposition speaker. And the third proposition speaker summarizes the key points of the proposition's case. Bean.
Can you go back to second opposition speaker?
Yeah.
Okay.
What would you like? Yeah, what would you like me to talk about, or did you just need to read it?
I think I just need to read it.
No worries.
Okay.
Thank you. Okay, so the third proposition speaker summarizes the key points of the proposition's case. Their duties include countering the arguments made by the second opposition speaker. So once again, rebuttals. They want to highlight the most persuasive arguments and evidence used during the proposition team's speaking time. So this is another reason why you've heard both myself and Miss Sophia talk about this. It's a technique called signposting. And that's basically where you make it so super obvious what you're talking about that it's not possible for anybody listening to misunderstand you. So that's like saying things like, I would now like to move on to presenting my arguments. Here is my first argument. Now I'll move on to my second argument. Here is my second argument. So using statements like that is called signposting. And it's basically, again, making it so obvious that nobody can get lost in your speech. And when you can Sorry about that, guys. My computer just decided to boot me off the Zoom call. Where did I get up to before I started lagging and you couldn't understand me anymore? Moon.
You started when you tell us about signposting.
Ah, very good. So did you hear the definition of signposting, or did it cut out or during that definition?
So like you say that, for example, like here's my first argument, now to move on to my second argument, like that.
Okay, awesome. Thank you very much. Okay, so with the definition of signposting again, that's just making it really obvious where you are in your speech so nobody can get lost and nobody can misunderstand what you're saying. So when you combine the technique of signposting with the highlighting the most persuasive arguments and evidence responsibility of the third proposition speaker, you make it very easy for the judges to be able to remember which arguments your team has made. Because if you think about it, each debate, you've got roughly anywhere between about 4 to 8 arguments being presented. And you times that by 2 for the 2 teams. You've got 16 arguments. Then you double that with all of the evidence you need to present with those arguments. There's a lot of information there for the judges to remember. And as enthusiastic as they may be, as much attention as they may pay, their brains would melt out of their ears if they tried to remember absolutely everything that's been said. It's just not possible. So by combining this signposting with the highlighting duty, again, you make it easier for the judges to be able to remember which arguments your team made. And so you give the judges a better chance of remembering the important points your team made, and you give your team the better chance of being declared the winners. And the final responsibility of the third proposition speaker, they need to make a persuasive closing statement to attempt to sway the judge's decision in the proposition team's favor. Sorry, there's a weird dinosaur toy that just repeatedly goes off in the front room. So, yeah, so this closing statement that is made. Sorry. So yeah, there's this, the closing statement made by the third speaker. The important thing to consider about that, the important thing you're trying to achieve is you're trying one last time to persuade the judges to rule in favor of your team. So the third proposition speaker's summary is important because it reminds the judges of the most important information from the proposition team's case. And finally, we move on to the third opposition speaker. A participant has set the speaking language to Ukrainian. Здравствуйте, меня зовут Михайло. Дуже приємно з вами познайомитися. That should be very interesting to get the subtitles on that. Okay. So the third opposition speaker very much has the same job as the third proposition speaker. They need to offer first of all, they need to offer a strong rebuttal to the closing remarks made by the third proposition speaker. The second thing they have to do, they have to summarize the strongest arguments and best supporting evidence used by the opposition team. So same thing, we want to combine the signposting and the summary of the strong arguments to help the judges remember what the best arguments your team made were. And finally, of course, we need to make a convincing final statement in a last attempt to sway the judge's decision in the opposition team's favor. Call me.
Uh, about earlier, I was to ask about the. Okay, I forgot about the question.
No worries. Ask me again if you remember. Okay, so the third opposition speaker's summary is important. Again, same reason, because it reminds the judges of the most important information from the opposition team's case. I can't speak Hungarian. We've now reached the end of the substantive portion of the debate. Now, the only thing left are the reply speeches. So the reply speakers are either the first or the second speaker from each team. It cannot be the third speaker because of the inverse order of the reply speakers. So what that means is that during the substantive part of the debate, we've gone proposition, opposition, sorry. My friend broke his wrist yesterday and he's sitting there trying to do something he needs two hands to do, and it's funny watching him struggle. So, but yeah, so it cannot be the third speaker of the team because of the inverse order of the reply speakers. So the substantives go first, proposition speaker, then opposition, proposition, then opposition. But the reply speeches go opposition first, proposition last. And because of that, if it was to be the third speaker from the opposition team, they would speak 2 times in a row. Здравствуйте! Ты говоришь по-русски язык. So, sorry, someone set their language to Russian and I got excited. So yes, yeah, most debates that have reply speeches in them, they have this rule that one speaker cannot speak 2 times in a row. I can't speak Portuguese. So yeah, I've lost my train of thought. That Russian got me excited. But yeah, so because the opposition go last substantive, first reply, if it was the third speaker, we'd have one person speaking 2 times in a row, and that's not allowed. The reason why, I'm not sure, but it's just not generally allowed. So because of that fact, for the opposition team, to make it fair, the proposition team have the same rule. It can't be the third speaker. Okay, but the reply speaker's duties include summarizing the debate from their team's point of view. So this is different from summarizing the best arguments that your team made. This is about what did your team do well? So did you guys raise a lot of points of information to try and weaken your opponent's case? Very good. Talk about that in your reply speech. Did you guys get lucky and have most of the rebuttals that you pre-prepared? Were they all the arguments your opponents used, so you're well prepared? Fantastic. Talk about that in your reply speech. So you do want to talk about, yes, Moon.
So in the reply speech about refuting the opponent's best points, so we're like rebuttaling them again.
No, so note they're the first 2 words in that dot point of talking about. So you want to talk about your team's best arguments. You want to talk about all of the rebuttals that your team made during the debate.
Oh, okay.
But you're not allowed to
make more
introduce
rebuttals.
You're not allowed to add any new rebuttals. You're not allowed to introduce any new arguments, and you're not allowed to introduce any new evidence in your reply speeches. You can only talk about what happened in the debate.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. And of course, you get to make one last closing statement to attempt to sway the judges in your favor. Dancing thumbs. So, Selma, you have a question.
Yeah, so like why is the third speaker isn't a reply speakers, and also how is the point of refuting the opponent's best point?
So I'm not sure the reason why that rule is in place, but the simple fact is that rule is in place where one speaker cannot speak 2 times in a row from the same team. So because of that rule, third speaker cannot be, the third opposition cannot be reply speaker. And to make it fair, neither can the third proposition speaker either. And what was the second question about refuting the opponent's best points?
Also like, what is the point of refuting the opponent's best points?
So that's just talking about all of the rebuttals. So you don't want to make any new rebuttals in a reply speech. You just want to talk about all of the times that your team successfully rebutted the opponents during the debate. Okay, so question and answer time, guys. If you've had some questions you wanted to ask, but haven't asked them yet, now is your chance. See your hand. Guys, I'm just going to turn my camera off for a second, but I am here. Okay, Suri, what's your question?
Okay, teacher. So what should we do if just like the speaker cannot understand another one when they are debating?
So do you mean because you can't hear what they say, or because they're talking too fast or something like this? Is that what you mean, Suri?
Yes, they speak too fast, so I cannot hear or understand anything that they are saying.
Okay, good question. So do you remember when we were talking about a point of order versus a point of information? So if someone is breaking one of the rules of the debate, or if they're speaking too fast so you can't understand them, you're allowed to raise a point of order to request that they speak a bit louder if they're being too quiet, or to speak a bit slower if they're speaking too quickly. You're allowed to make requests like that, and then it's up to the moderator to then it's up to the moderator to allow or deny that request. However, generally speaking, speakers in a debate want the judges to be able to understand them, so they'll speak in a way that the judges can understand them. And of course, keep in mind, you do get judged on your style as well. So how you speak, how you look when you speak. So they'll be trying to get those marks as well. So it shouldn't happen too often. But if it does, then you can raise a point of order. Ken, what's your question?
I'd like to ask, what's the most active speaker during a debate?
As in who gets the most speaking time?
Yes. So yes, who get the most?
So speaking purely about substantive speeches, everybody gets the same amount of time. Nobody gets any more than anyone else. But that can then you also factor in which team member is the reply speaker, because then they get 2 more minutes. And then you also factor in how many points of interest and points of information are being raised by the team. So I would generally say whoever is the reply speaker will be the most active member of the team. Alice Lee. Hello, Alice.
Can you give me an example of what the first proposition speaker will say?
Like a full speech?
No, only the beginning, like the introduction.
Ah, okay. It just so happens that I have one of these example speeches here. So I'll pick the first proposition speaker. So generally speaking, they want in the introduction you've asked for, they'll greet the audience and the opposing team. They will clearly state the topic of the debate, and they'll present their team's position on the topic. So it might go something like, oh, look, it's even a point here. Where is it? Signposting. Use clear signposting to guide the audience through your speech. Anyway, so ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and respected opponents, I stand before you today as the first speaker of the affirmative team to argue in favor of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. So this has obviously been written about a climate change debate. We firmly believe that this step is crucial in addressing the pressing challenges posed by climate change and securing a sustainable future for generations to come. Let me now present our arguments in support of this proposition. So clear signposting there, addressing everybody in the debate, mentioning which team you're on, which speaker you are, and mentioning the motion and the fact that you're in favor of it. So very, very clear about what they're trying to express in that speech. Okay, so Bill, hello, Bill, long time no speak.
Hello, teacher. Teacher, I have a question that how does each team debate each other, because there are many teams that we like you. So
a debate will only ever have 2 teams on it. One team arguing for the proposition, one team arguing for the opposition. There'll never be more than 2 teams in this form of debate.
Yes, and the winner will debate with another winner in 2 teams.
Correct. So I'll pull up a whiteboard quickly. But yeah, generally speaking, you have described that correctly, Bill. So let's say we've got text. So let's say we've got team 1 versus team 2 and team 3 versus team 4. So they have theirs, they have theirs, and let's say that team 1 is the victor, and in this one here, team 4 is the victor. So now we have a new debate of team 1 versus team 4. So that's how you'll make your way through the tournament. Through the tournament brackets. You beat one team and then you move on, and then the team from the match after yours, you verse the winner of them in the next round. Okay, call me teacher. Teacher, what's your question, teacher? Yes, I thought I was pretty clever with that. Okay, no response. Let's move on. Ken, what's your question?
Okay, teacher. So, should we use formal language in the debate, or can we use informal language?
As much as possible, use as much formal and advanced English as you can. If you don't know what something means, use a dictionary, use a thesaurus to look for other possible words to use. But yes, as much as possible, keep your English formal and try and use the more advanced vocabulary. Annie, how can I help? Radio silence from Annie. Jennifer.
I can't open my camera. I want to ask you, if we speak but we don't have enough time, what should we do?
So if you can't turn your camera on?
Yes.
So if you're not able to turn your camera on, I suppose you'll just have to manage without it, but just keep in mind that will affect your style grading, as we need to be able to see you to be able to judge your posture, your body language, and all of that, as well as how you sound when you speak. So just keep that in mind. So if you've got any camera problems, try and get them fixed.
Okay, I will fix this later. So I want to ask you, if you are debating with others, but you don't have enough time, so what should we do next?
So if you don't have enough time to finish your arguments?
Yes.
So that would come down to poor preparation. So going into each debate how long you have to speak. So I would just practice your speech and time yourself giving your speech, so you know roughly how long it's going to take. And then that way you can take out any excess sentences you need to take out, and make any changes you need to. But if that happens during the debate, that's just one of those unfortunate things that it's going to affect your score. So it's just something you're going to have to deal with.
Okay, thank you.
You're very welcome. Are we doing a monkey dance again, Moon? What's going on?
Okay, so do we have like a competition today, like debate, team battles?
So no competition today. But the activity that we've got for you, I've got a couple of tasks for the student helpers to do today. Let me just find that. Oh, here we go. So there are two topics I would like the student helpers to discuss with there we go. So yeah, there are two topics I want the student helpers to discuss with their group of students. Number one, I'll post it in the chat now. So number one is expand on today's topic of the roles and the duties of the 6 speakers in a debate. And number two, I want you guys to introduce the students to the Teal or the Peel paragraph structure, because that's going to be the topic of next week's workshop, how to construct your arguments. And then as well, we've got an activity. So I'm going to post the topic. So the topic is, should everyone learn to speak English? The motion is, this house believes that everyone should learn to speak English. And so student helpers, what I want you guys to do is you can pick for the team. Are they going to be the opposition or the proposition? You get to pick, and then you're going to take them through a brainstorming activity where they just try to come up with a list of arguments to make for whichever team you've put them on. So this is just going to teach them to start preparing for a debate, how to come up with a list of arguments. And as well, also get them to come up with arguments that work for the other team, because by doing that, you can then start to prepare rebuttals for those arguments. You might get lucky and everything you come up with, the other team uses, so you've got your rebuttals pre-prepared, or you might get unlucky and produce a list of rebuttals that you don't need. But either way, you're going to have a better understanding of the topic. So take them through that, please. I'll answer a few more questions and then we'll get the breakout room section started. Julie.
So my question is, what happened when we have a question and then the competitor have like more opinions, more than 2 opinions, like 5 or 7. So what would we do?
So so if you have questions or comments to make, is this during your opponent's speech, or are these the rebuttals that you're talking about?
What I mean is like, for example, the question that you said, what do you think the best artist of all time is? So maybe this person think it has this artist is, but another person this artist is, and then they have a lot of different opinions.
Okay, I understand. So that would all depend on which team you're on. So if you are on the proposition team, it's actually a little bit trickier because you have to pick one. So yeah, you have to pick one line of logic and stick with that. So the proposition team would have to say, we believe, and I'm just making something up here. Truthfully, I don't know enough about art to make this decision, but they might say, yeah, I believe that Monet is the best artist to have ever lived. So that's one line of logic the proposition have to follow, but the opposition would actually be able to use a number of that. The opposition would be able to make multiple arguments and say, well, here's the reason I think Salvador Dali is the best artist ever. Here's the reason I think Pablo Picasso is the best artist ever. And they can use a lot of different arguments because all they're trying to do is disprove the proposition's one argument or one line of logic is wrong. So if you're on the proposition, you've kind of got to stick to your stance, but the opposition have a little bit more wiggle room with some of the arguments they can make, is my answer. But you would want to pre-prepare. You'd want to pre-prepare this entire debate, all of your arguments, all of everything before the debate takes place. Willow.
Okay, so basically what we're going to do in the breakout rooms is expand what we've covered today.
Correct.
So what about the debate thing? Like, you have given us the motion, so what are we going to do?
So I should add some instructions to that, shouldn't I? Sorry, I cannot type and speak, so I'm just going to type the instructions out. So your student helper will pick your team and you will want to brainstorm a list of arguments that your team could make to defend its stance towards the motion. So if you are on the proposition team, come up with a list of reasons why everybody should learn to speak English. If you're on the opposition team, come up with a list of reasons why everybody should not learn to speak English. So that's the task. So what we're doing with these little breakout room exercises, we're slowly, step by step, giving you one more piece of the debating puzzle, how to formulate good arguments, how to build a case, basically. So I know this might be a little bit slow for some of you, but just understand that by practicing this, you will get better practicing these skills the way we're setting this out. And very soon you'll be able to be very effective debaters. Kevin.
Yes.
What's your question?
So you are speaking at the 10 last seconds and you didn't finish your speaking. So what do you do? End that or just keep talking?
So most debates, they will give you a little bit of overflow time. So in the NCSN tournament, we will be giving you 30 seconds of overflow time. So keep speaking until the moderator physically goes, no more, your time is up. You have to stop speaking right now. Until you get a reaction like that, you just keep talking. And hopefully you will finish your arguments in that extra 30 seconds you're given. But yeah, ideally you will be marked best if you get your speech completed within the 4 minutes you're given. But yeah, you do have that 30 seconds with which to try and finish.
I have another question.
Yeah, one more. Looks like the breakout rooms have been.
So what if you are doing an argument and you said a sentence that does give something to the other team's arguments, so they use that to say?
So one sentence is not going to do a whole lot for your opponent's case. But even so, try and avoid giving your opponents anything as much as possible. That's really the only advice I can give. Try to ensure that all of your arguments and evidence work in favor of your team. Call me teacher.
Well, I'm very curious, and I don't know. Well, the last time, I'm in the breakout rooms, and then it just keeps switching, and I just and my head's just spinning around, and I don't know what room am I in.
I believe with the breakout rooms, you will be assigned a room to go to. If not, some of the student helpers will stay in this room here and help the students as well. So wherever you end up, there'll be student helpers to help you. Alice.
No. I don't see my student helper in breakout Zoom.
Maybe they might still be in here. Either way, just work with the student helpers that are in here. I'll answer a few more questions and then I'll leave you guys to it to get to working with your student helpers. Ken.
Teacher, I don't know my SH2. What should I do?
I believe you have a group with them on Zalo. Communicate with them on Zalo if you
No, I
can't
think I
see
switched
them.
team.
Pardon?
No, I think that I switched team.
Oh. Which team are you on now?
I don't know. I'm just asking the person to join the team.
No worries. Well, good luck getting that worked out. Summer.
So basically the student's helper will find points for the motion and that's all.
Don't just give them the answer. Help them think of the answers themselves. Don't just give them the answers.
Okay. But how about
Sorry.
the teal peel thing?
So the teal peel paragraph structure. So the T and the P stand for the same thing, just a different word. The T stands for topic. The P stands for point. The first E stands for explanation. The second E stands for evidence. And the L stands for linking sentence. So that's basically just the best way to organize your arguments. So topic, like what's your argument you're making? Explanation, go into a bit more detail. Evidence, obviously provide the supporting information. And then L, because we're signposting, find a way to link it all back to the topic sentence.
Okay.
If you guys don't know about if you've never studied the teal paragraph thing before, don't worry about it because we're going to go into it in detail next week. Selena.
I want to add that my student helper is Rosa, but I don't see student helper Rosa in the breakout room.
She's still here in the main room with us.
Yeah.
Speak of the devil and she shall appear. Rosa, what's your question?
What if like you have a judge who isn't like good at debate and shouldn't be able to judge you? What would you do to actually
actually get the judge's attention and to win that round, even though the judge is like not a professional.
Oof. If they have not been formally trained, oh, by the way, no more questions after John, Mark, and Bill. They're the last 3 questions I'll take. So to answer your question, Rosa, if a judge has not been formally trained, so they don't know what to watch out for when it comes to quality debating, you're kind of just throwing stuff at the wall to see what sticks, because they don't know what the standards are, you don't know what they'll be looking for. So that's a really hard question to answer. But the best bet is just to do the best job you can, prepare your arguments as well as possible, speak them as confidently as possible, and try your hardest not to make any whoopsies. That's really the best advice I can give there. Because I've had some students in some of my classes that I've had help me judge a debate, and most of what they judged was very similar to how I judged it. But then occasionally there'd be this really big outlier of like, I thought their evidence was only worth a 1, but they gave them a 4. I'm thinking to myself, what evidence did you hear? There wasn't any, sort of thing. But most of the time, most people tend to judge things the same, but it's really kind of take your chance with it. John, what is your question?
Question is, I can't forget rebuttals.
Pardon?
I kind of forget the rebuttal thing. The rebuttal thing.
Oh, so you're asking what is a rebuttal?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, so let's say that you and me are having a debate. Let's just go back to the best artist in the world topic, because it's an easy one for me to think about right now. So let's say that I make the argument, I think Pablo Picasso is the best artist in the world. In your speech, and you decide to rebut my argument, let's just say that one of my arguments is, well, Pablo Picasso invented Cubism, which has become a very popular and famous style of art nowadays. You could then turn around and say, you could make a rebuttal by saying,
Da Vinci had painted Mona Lisa, kind of like that.
Exactly. Yeah. So you could say, yes, Pablo Picasso did invent Cubism. However, the most famous painting in the world was painted by Leonardo da Vinci, and it is the Mona Lisa. And because of, here's the reasons. What am I trying to say? So because of reasons like this, the Mona Lisa is the best painting in the world. Therefore, Leonardo da Vinci must be the best artist in the world. So that would be a rebuttal, an example of a rebuttal.
So Alice, or you break our room by SS name, yeah?
Yep. All right, guys. So just to remind you all, have a look for your for your student helper and join their breakout rooms if you see them there. Bill.
Yes, teacher. I don't have a question, but I didn't see my teammates anywhere, and the helper too.
I don't really know what to suggest with that, because these breakout rooms drive me crazy. They never do what I want them to do. So I apologize. I don't really know how to answer.
In this your Zoom, I didn't see they anywhere.
Try checking the participants list, or try checking the breakout rooms button. Maybe you'll see the people you're looking for in one of the rooms.
Before this time, I just checked and didn't see them.
I don't know what to suggest then.
I don't know.
No apologies, Bill. Mark,
Can I ask you something?
you may.
In my breakout room, there are no people.
Mark.
It said there's 3, but when I joined, there's no one. And there's only 9 minutes left on the clock.
That is strange. All I can really say there is just if the breakout rooms aren't working the way they should, just help students in the main room here.
Do I just say things I need to say in here right now?
If you have some information you'd like to tell the students, yes, you can, or just send messages to students that are in the room. Okay, so that is the end of my time, guys. I'm going to hand it over to the student helpers. Send them messages, communicate, ask them questions. Make sure you go over the subjects that we've discussed. If you're not familiar with the Teal or the Peel paragraph, then don't use it. Don't talk about it yet, because we're going to go over it next week. So I'll see you guys next week. I'll see some of you this evening. Ugh. See you next week, everyone. Keep studying. All right, who's misbehaving? Do we have some questions? Oop.
Can I please ask?
Yes.
I'm very confused. I don't know, but I can't get into the breakout rooms. I can't say anything, and I can't chat.
Okay. John, do you have a question? Willow, do you have a question?
What are we doing now?
So we're supposed to be talking to the kids about the today's topic, introducing next week's topic, and brainstorming.
So we kind of already done that.
Ah, so you guys have done all of the tasks that we set.
Yes, so there was 20 minutes and 20 minutes was over, so it told us to go back to the main room.
Ah, okay. All right. Well, if you guys have done all of the tasks, then that's really all that needs to get done. Just keep in contact with your students in the Zalo groups, help them out if they need it. But yeah, besides that, we don't really have anything else to do. I'll close, just saw the breakout rooms opened again.
Okay.
So I'll bring everyone back into the main room. Sorry, you got sent into a breakout room right in the middle of your sentence. What were you saying?
I was saying that I am difficult and I'm pretty don't know what to say about it like this. So at first, I can't when I can't come into the breakout rooms, and then I asked my mom, and my mom's come in and checked, and she can't even let me into the breakout room too. And then I go back, and then I started to chat I'm starting to chat in Zalo, but they locked the Zalo chat, so I can't do a thing.
Oof.
And then I don't know, but when I tried to put the paperboard on because like I needed help, but in the group there's no one helping me and they locked the chat. So I needed something in the Zoom. Well, we can't talk in the Zoom. So I just waving and wait until you come back. And then I just got into the breakout rooms while I don't needed it right now. I'm confusing.
Okay, well, the 3 tasks that we set for today were to go over the topics that we discussed today, which were obviously the roles of the speakers, go over or introduce you to the topic for next week. Hang on. Okay, everyone should be able to unmute themselves now. But yeah, so today's topic, go over next week's topic. So introduce the teal paragraphs and then do the brainstorming session for today's debate topic, which was should everyone learn to speak English? So apparently some of you have done that. So if that's the case, then we've done all the work.
No. Oh, I mean, teacher.
Teacher, I have an opinion.
Yes, United Debaters.
Teacher, I can't find my room. Why don't we can't like go to the main
Teacher.
room and then go to the breakout room?
I think that we should not close the Zalo chat.
Kept repeating,
because,
yeah.
just some participants.
One at a time, guys. One at a time.
Who's gonna mute
Quiet, one at a time, please.
All right, one at a time.
So I think that we should not close the Zalo chat because we cannot chat during emergency situations, which is pretty annoying. And I think that a few participants spamming wouldn't do much.
I actually agree with that. I didn't know the Zalo chat had been locked down. Normally, as you guys know from the last couple of weeks, I'm not normally in this second hour, but I don't know what happened today, so I've come back. But yeah, so I'll find out about that Zalo chat, try and keep that unlocked for you. And yeah. Tim, you had your hand up.
Teacher, I can't find my room. I don't know what to do.
So I mean, class is over in 1 minute now anyway. I'll work out what happened today and we'll try and fix those problems for next week. But once the Zalo chats get unlocked again, I definitely think we should keep in contact with your student helpers and yeah, just get that brainstorming activity done so you can train yourself to start thinking of other arguments, basically start thinking up reasons and arguments. Ben.
Like, is this topic do we write alone or with our team?
So this is a training exercise. You won't have this topic in the debating tournament. This is just to teach you to get you to practice brainstorming ideas about a topic so you can start thinking of more arguments when you are ready to debate. Yes.
Well, if and when the chat is locked, we can't not chat important things, and maybe I will not know that the meeting code when I can't see it and it's lagging. I might cannot join in the class for some reason.
Okay. Well, like I said, I'm like you guys have seen in the last 2 weeks, I'm not normally in this second hour. I just got called back to try and sort out what was going on. But for next week, I'll try and get all of these issues sorted out so it's more straightforward. I do apologize for the mix-up today.
Okay.
Okay, so we are finished for this afternoon. Next week's topic will be an introduction to the teal paragraph, which is a really good method for constructing your arguments when you debate because it allows you to write in lots of detail. So yeah, I'll see you guys next week. keep practicing your brainstorming activity. If you haven't finished, if you didn't get it finished, contact your student helper and ask for some help to brainstorm ideas. So I'll see you all next week. All right, one last question.
Well, before I go